Hello and welcome to Fine Cuisine. We are now in China, the country with a long-lasting, worldwide famous and popular culinary art. But now in China, Vietnamese cuisine has nailed its fame among the local as well as the foreigners who are living and working in this country or just come here as visitors. And in this episode of Fine Cuisine, we are attempting to feature some of the restaurants in town that offering Vietnamese traditional food to see how it has conquered the heart of the people here.
The food is so flavorsome and so green.
You could feel the different herbs taste.
北京菜可能口味偏咸一些，偏重一些。
越南菜就是比较稍微清淡，然后偏甜偏酸。
It's the same for me.
我们北方菜就是比较咸，
然后越南菜呢，稍微对比起来就是清淡一点，而且是辣口、甜口比较多。
It was nicely hot, not too much, not too little.
最大的区别呢，就是口味偏清淡。
吃越南菜主要讲究它的清淡，
它的佐料很好，很新鲜。
食材的本质本味，
而且颜色搭配很清淡，我非常喜欢。
Here you order and you eat everything because you feel like you have to try a little bit everywhere.
We are visiting the first destination in the little journey today to discover Vietnamese cuisine in China. This is Tian Jia Lou in the Hutong area, the ancient quarters of Beijing, the capital of China. Now, for many foreigners, it's extremely difficult for them to define which is which, as there's so many similarity between Vietnamese cuisine and Chinese cuisine. But here in Tian Jia Lou, as they have two different kitchens offering two different types of cuisine, they also have two different dining spaces for diners. You're gonna see the differences. So let's check this out. The name Qing Yun Lou in Chinese or nuage in French means cloud. The meaning was adopted from a famous Qing dynasty restaurant about 200 years ago, which operated within the exact same building. On the first floor of this historical building is the dining space dedicated to China's Shandong cuisine, one of the four great culinary traditions of China. Shandong cuisine is considered one of the most influential and perhaps the foundational school for China's 8 cuisines from the 8 different regions of China. To continue the antique atmosphere, I decided to visit the upper floor, which is full of Vietnamese accents. The rickshaw-like dining chairs and Chinese waitresses in Vietnamese outside are to provide diners with their first impression of Vietnam. However, the deepest impression must come from the food itself. In the kitchen, 4 cooks are busy preparing orders. Most seasonings, sauces, and herbs are imported from Vietnam, which ensures that the restaurant is inspired by the highest standards of Vietnamese cuisine. The former head chef of Qing Yun Lou is a Vietnamese, and his successor is now Yan Chun, a Chinese chef.
我做越南菜5年。
I've cooked Vietnamese dishes for 5 years now. I learned the techniques from a Vietnamese chef who used to work here. For me, it's not difficult to cook Vietnamese food, but in order to cook nicely, the chef must have some particular skills.
stir-fried morning glory with garlic, sweet sugar cane prawn, Mekong blackfish soup, and green papaya salad rolls are among the most wanted Vietnamese dishes in this restaurant.
At the beginning, Chinese diners weren't familiar with Vietnamese dishes, so we have made some little changes to those dishes. Then, Chinese diners enjoyed our dishes very much.
This Vietnamese kitchen was launched 14 years ago amid a rising demand for Vietnamese cuisine among the locals in Beijing. Diners here include foreign tourists from around the world and Chinese youngsters who considered Vietnamese cuisine as a new trend.
I tried Vietnamese food many times before when I was in the United States. Vietnamese dishes have a sweet and spicy flavor. I like the taste of Vietnamese cuisine.
I'm now studying in Japan. Many of my schoolmates are Vietnamese, and the school's canteen also has Vietnamese food. I love these dishes a lot. Every time I come back here, I ask my friends to go with me to some Vietnamese restaurants.
This French couple is now on a holiday in Beijing, and trying some Vietnamese dishes here in Beijing is in their to-do list.
I really like Vietnamese cuisine. I'm from Paris. There are a lot of Vietnamese restaurants in Paris and in France, but I prefer the Vietnamese dishes in Beijing. It's much more delicious to me.
This restaurant won an Outstanding Vietnamese Cuisine Award in China's Restaurant Awards in 2009. This fact urged me to sit down and order something for myself.
这是越南菜的是吧？那么你们最特色的越南菜是哪一个？
就是越南春卷、咖喱鸡、青木瓜。还有一个是越南的汤河粉。
那好，我要点一份河粉，还有一份那个小饼。 然后那个春卷，那就够了，好，谢谢啦。
没事，那请问喝你喝什么吗？
不用喝，好。
Taro, carrot, wood ear fungi, minced pork, and glass noodles have been prepared for the fried spring rolls that I have just ordered. The fried version with minced pork is called chả giò in southern Vietnam and nem rán in northern Vietnam. As they put taro in the mixture, I believe this is the Vietnamese southern style dish, which is closer to the taste of the Chinese diners. Rice paper is always used as the wrappers for the spring rolls in Vietnam. A few Vietnamese restaurants in the Western countries may use Chinese-style spring roll wrappers, a thicker yet smaller yellowish one due to the lack of Vietnamese rice paper. But here in this restaurant, they have the right kinds of wrapper for the authentic fried spring rolls.
越南菜的区别跟中国菜的区别就是中国菜
There are differences between Vietnamese and Chinese cuisine. Chinese cooking often consists of several complicated steps. Meanwhile, Vietnamese dishes are of no complexity. And the most important thing is to keep the original taste of all the ingredients.
Yes, indeed, Vietnamese cuisine does not win any points for complexity, CNN said on its online travel column. Many of the most popular dishes can be made just as well on this side of the road as in the top-end restaurant.
But it's precisely the simplicity, the subtle variations by region, and the fresh ingredients that put Vietnamese cuisine in the list of the top 3 healthiest ethnic cuisines voted by Health.com, an American prestigious health and wellness brand. One of the healthiest and most delicious Vietnamese dishes is pho, an aromatic, broth-based noodle soup full of spices. The simple dish consists of a flavorsome broth, fresh rice noodles, and a sprinkling of herbs and chicken or beef. Then bánh xèo, or the xèo pancake, is another must-try Vietnamese dishes. A good bánh xèo is a crispy crepe verging with pork, shrimp, and bean sprouts, plus the garnish of fresh herbs that are characteristic of most authentic Vietnamese dishes.
So my food has arrived. I guess it's a little bit too much food for one person, but I'm so excited to try many Vietnamese dishes outside of Vietnam. So well, it's crunchy and has a lot of flavor, and it tastes similar to what I eat in Vietnam, the spring roll, but the sauce is not as salty as in Vietnam. How about this bowl? The Vietnamese pho noodle. Wow. It's really big. I think maybe it's double the size of a bowl of pho noodle in Vietnam. And it also have this kind of herb, and it is exactly the southern style of Vietnamese pho noodle.
While Vietnamese people in the north prefer to eat pho noodle without extra herbs, the southern style pho is always served with non-cooked bean sprouts and basil.
Wow, it's really good, and I hope that this such dish is gonna help the Chinese people understand more about Vietnamese cuisine. So we had a chance to try some Vietnamese dishes cooked by Chinese chefs. So how about Vietnamese traditional food cooked by Vietnamese chefs in China? Will it be authentically cooked or will it be fusion? Well, let's try out one more restaurant.
In Beijing's old quarter of Hutong, it is not easy to find the Sousou restaurant, which is recommended by CNN and TripAdvisor as being amongst the best Vietnamese restaurants in Beijing. The so-called hidden gem is set within a renovated old courtyard home. It is named after a squash. Reservations for dining here are always needed, especially around lunch and dinner time. Meet Jonathan Ansfield, the co-founder of this restaurant. The Beijing-based American journalist and his Chinese wife opened Sousou in 2011, dedicated to Vietnamese cuisine.
We sort of saw the need in Beijing for for another nice, cool courtyard restaurant, and for more Vietnamese cuisine. I think for a long time there haven't been great Vietnamese restaurants in Beijing, mostly, in large part because it's been very hard to get good ingredients. The leafy herbs, sauces, and things like that really were very, very difficult to source and very expensive to source before. It's gotten easier the last 5 to 7 years.
Finding the right ingredients for Vietnamese dishes is no longer his concern at the moment, as there is a full supply for the southern China, or from Vietnam and Thailand. However, the key to success of Sousou in luring local diners is the chef.
that's not easy to find, I think, in kitchens with the cooks and chefs around China. So we found the best way was to meet, to go to Vietnam and find guys who sort of identified with kind of the concept that we wanted, which was kind of a mix of doing something rustic and traditional, but also with some creative twists.
Here is the Vietnamese chef that Jonathan has just mentioned. 28-year-old Lou Ngọc Quyên from Ho Chi Minh City accepted Jonathan's invitation 4 years ago to move to Beijing and work in his restaurant as a chef. His skills and creativity to mix Vietnamese rustic and innovative cuisine have awakened local taste buds. So today we had the chance to meet with a Vietnamese chef from Ho Chi Minh City, and he has prepared for us the ingredients to cook some Vietnamese traditional food. And some of these dishes cannot be found anywhere in Beijing, but here in this plate. So let's now talk with him to see how he gonna do it. Xin chào bạn, bạn có thể giới thiệu một chút là về những cái món ăn mà bạn đã chuẩn bị này không?
Thật ra món ăn Trung Quốc với món ăn Việt Nam thì có đại bộ phận thì về cái cách sắp xếp nguyên liệu, rồi cách cắt thái thì rất là giống nhau. Nhưng mà tại vì mình mở một cái nhà hàng tại Bắc Kinh, cho nên mình phải chọn được những cái món hoàn toàn khác với Bắc Kinh, hoàn toàn khác với cái món ở Trung Quốc. Cho nên ở đây hôm nay những cái món tại đây thì là những cái nhà hàng Trung Quốc ở tại Bắc Kinh rất là hiếm có.
Thế thì bây giờ mình có thể bắt đầu làm từ một món nào đấy mà thật sự là rất Việt Nam không?
Ok.
Mình thật sự sẽ bắt đầu từ món nào bây giờ?
Làm cái món gỏi cuốn tôm thịt rất là truyền thống của Việt Nam.
Như bánh đa như thế này thì cũng là mua từ Việt Nam đúng không?
Đúng rồi. Như cái nguyên liệu bánh đa này thì mình cũng nhập từ Việt Nam qua. Thì bây giờ mình sẽ làm cái món gỏi cuốn tôm thịt. Thì thứ nhất thì mình cho một ít nước lên, ít nước để làm cho cái bánh nó mềm ra.
Bánh đa này có phải là kiểu miền Nam cũng khá là dày đấy. Bánh đa miền Bắc thì nó sẽ mỏng và giòn hơn.
Đúng rồi. Mình sẽ đặt 2 con tôm. Thịt này là thịt đùi của heo, xương ra. Xong mình lại cho một ít cái lá bạc hà, một ít lông rau thơm, lá quế, một ít cái rau xà lách tím cho đẹp, có màu sắc cho đẹp. Một số cái thực phẩm như rau thơm ở Trung Quốc thì cái hương vị của nó hoàn toàn khác xa với cái hương vị của rau thơm Việt Nam. Cho nên mình phải đi ra chợ, mình phải chọn đúng những cái loại rau thơm có cái mùi thơm giống Việt Nam thì nó mới thơm được. Rồi, đây là cái món mình đã thành phẩm.
Many foreigners are addicted to Vietnamese street food, including the green papaya salad with dried beef. According to Chef Quyên, the papaya must be green and fresh so that its flesh, after being shredded, stay firm, not soft or mushy. The same requirements stand for the carrots, Quyên said. And these are the compulsory ingredients for making this dish. Vietnamese herbs including coriander, basil, and mint, roasted white sesame, ground roasted peanuts, and dry shallots, all feature in the cuisine.
Bò mình phải chọn bò phi lê mềm và non, ướp cho một ít tỏi, một ít tiêu, rồi thêm một ít nước mắm. Chỉ thế thôi. Đừng cho gì gia vị nhiều thì nó sẽ mất đi cái mùi vị của bò. Sau khi đây là bò.
Cuối cùng đó là nước mắm.
Nước mắm.
Đây là nước mắm Việt Nam đấy hả?
Nước mắm Việt Nam.
Nhưng cũng phải pha một chút đúng không? Vì màu của nó đã nhạt ra rồi.
Mình pha với nước chanh tươi, rồi
nước cốt
một
chanh.
ít đường, rồi xong nó trộn lên. Trông rất hấp dẫn đúng không chị?
Thơm nữa, cũng thơm mùi rau gia vị đặc trưng mà mình nghĩ là chỉ có Việt Nam mới có. Thật ra là ngay giữa lòng Bắc Kinh cũng có thể thử được món nộm bò. To distinguish itself from other restaurants in town, Sousou has chosen several typical Vietnamese dishes that can hardly be found elsewhere, namely Vietnamese bánh mì with meatballs, Hanoi's chả cá or fried fish, and bún chả or grilled pork and vermicelli. These dishes are prepared in the traditional way and displayed in a new creative style. Many healthy food seekers go for Vietnamese cuisine.
Vietnamese cuisine is based on the original taste and fragrance of ingredients. There aren't too many spices in one dish. Diners will experience the fine taste naturally.
I have been to many famous restaurants in town. This restaurant offers many Vietnamese dishes, which are delicious, and their tastes are the same to some authentic Vietnamese dishes that I've tried.
Many foreigners who lived in China are also fans of Vietnamese food, besides the Chinese dishes that they have every day. This Dutch teacher has lived and worked in Beijing for 5 years. Being to this place many times before, Alexandra today decides to introduce some of her favorite Vietnamese dishes to her relative from the Netherlands, who has just arrived for sightseeing in China.
This restaurant, it's got such a beautiful location. It's right in the middle of the hutongs, and it's so pretty and green. And then the food here is just fantastic. It's very light food, so if you feel like having a big meal but you don't want to feel really heavy afterwards, then Vietnamese food is perfect for that, I think. Yeah.
Delicious. It's such a great blend of spices and really lovely, fresh, light, and just like all the little combinations of things. It just tastes really nice, and nothing's too heavy, nothing's too spicy, but you can still taste a whole lot of flavors in something so simple. It's delicious. It's really nice.
So, in conclusion, what are the most significant differences between Vietnamese and Chinese cuisine? The first thing to mention is the sauce. While fish sauce acts as the soul for most Vietnamese dishes, Chinese never use a fish sauce. They use soy sauce, the dark and light ones. Vietnamese cuisine is less reliant on frying and therefore less oily, while Chinese cuisine is full of cooking oil. While Vietnamese just add a minimum amount of spice to keep the fresh and original taste of the ingredients, the flavor of Chinese cuisine is much stronger through the varied use of many kinds of spices. Chinese food is generally spicier, especially with their famous chili bean paste. Vietnamese love eating rice and stuff made from rice powder. Chinese loves mantou, dim sum, and stuff made from wheat powder. Chinese use ginger slightly more, while Vietnamese tend towards other fresh herbs. In Vietnamese cuisine, these herbs and sometimes vegetables are frequently served fresh to add more aroma to the main dishes. Meanwhile, Chinese prefer their vegetable be cooked. Vietnamese food is renowned for its simplicity, while Chinese food is famous for its complexity in both cooking process and display. But overall, it is the culture of eating with chopsticks that brings the two cuisines closer and sometimes confuse foreigners who are not familiar with Asian food in defining which is which. Being named in the list of the most healthiest cuisines worldwide, Vietnamese cuisine increased in popularity in many countries, including in China, the country with a long-lasting culinary history. And that is the end of this episode of Fine Cuisine. If you had not had the chance to try some Vietnamese dishes, you should give it a try and find the nearest Vietnamese restaurants. And I do hope that this episode of Fine Cuisine is going to help you define the most significant similarity and differences between Vietnamese cuisine and Chinese cuisine. And that is for now. Thank you very much for being with us. This is Fine Cuisine on VTV International.